Hey guys, welcome back. I'm David. We're here in my shop where I build Ewor guitars. And this is episode 9 of Ewor Custom's Great Guitar Giveaway. And I've been working on these guitars right here. I wanted to show you. Now I'm working probably 2 weeks ahead of the videos that air. So this week's video is going to be the 4th installment on the necks. And but I just kind of wanted to show you where we're at. I actually even dyed the top this past week too. And you may be wondering, you can see that the rest of the guitar still needs sanding, and I've still got to sand the neck joint. But why in the world would I dye the top before I even glued in the neck? And I'll tell you why. Can you see the flaming in there, the dark and light? To get that effect, or to really make that grain pop, you've got to go over this grain several times with black dye. I put it on as I'm sanding through the body, so I'll put on a coat, I'll sand it off, put on another coat, sand it off, put on, I think I did 3 coats of black. And what that does, every time you do that, it darkens and enriches the grain, the softer grain, and that black really soaks in. So then when you do your colors on top, that grain really stands out. And that's got 1 coat of Simtex sealer on it too. And anyway, after I got the black on there, then I did the purple. And I went with purple because I think that leopard wood and the purple heart in the neck, I think it lends itself to a really deep, rich purple. But anyway, I do all that so I can get it sanded, especially really nice up here, because you do a lot of sanding with the dye on there after the dye's on. And I do that so this stays really super clean up around the neck and everything. So that's why I stained that, or I dyed it, and then put a coat of sealer on it to protect it while I'm finishing the rest of the guitar. Anyway, so that's where I'm at with this one. And the next step on this one is going to be the sanding, to do the finish sanding and then get ready to do sealer on the entire guitar. And the other one, the twin, is this far along. I've got the top is contoured, and I've contoured the back. I haven't glued in the neck yet, but I'm about to. But before I do that, I've got to do some more sanding on it, but then I go through the dyeing process on this one too. I've got a lot of comments from you folks about red. So I'm thinking about going through the same black process where I highlight the grain with the black dye and then doing a coat of deep red on top of this too. And then I'm not sure about the back and the neck and everything. I'll get to that when I get there. But anyway, that's where we're at this spot, and I just kind of wanted to show you where we're at. And this episode is going to be the 4th installment on the neck. Necks are an awful lot of work, and there's a lot that goes into it. I'm trying to show all the steps. So this week's episode is going to be me finalizing the neck and getting them to the stage where you see that one at now. So anyway, and this is the giveaway, and I've got a lot of great comments, and I've got a lot of great names in there. If you are interested in being a part of this giveaway and you don't know anything about it, what you got to do is you have to subscribe to my channel, and you also have to give me a name that you think I should call that guitar, because this is a very new design for me, and I don't have a name for it. I want to get a name for it. Hopefully I'll get to where I'm selling them someday. At any rate, so that's what you got to do. Subscribe to my channel and shoot me the name in the comments you think I ought to call it. I'm going to enter you into the contest. And when it's all said and done, when I'm done building these guitars, I'm going to pull a name out of the hat, and that person's going to get a guitar, and I'll ship it anywhere in the world to you. So anyway, so that's the contest. These are the guitars, and let's get going with the 4th installment of the neck work. Anyway, we'll see you again at the end of the video. Okay, so just to recap a little bit, let me adjust this up here. So just a little quick recap. So we've got the fretboard installed. Of course, we bound the edges, cut the fret slots first, installed it, bound the edges, radiused it on that radius and jig. Then I installed the fret dots up in it, and then I set it on my sanding beam, and I sanded it with 150, 220, and then 320. Actually 120, 150, 220, and 320. That's all set to go. I took my little 3-sided file and I filed these edges. Let me see if I can hold this up there where you can see it. I ran my file in here to relieve these edges on the fret slots a little bit, which makes it a heck of a lot easier putting in the frets. Anyway, so now I'm going through the process. I'm cutting the frets to length. I'm using my fret tang nipper to nip the bottom, the tangs off where it goes across the fret, the binding. Anyway, so that's what I'm doing. So I'm just going to show that process now. And then I'm installing the frets too. Let me get this back down where you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So first I'm going to cut the fret rough length. I'm cutting it maybe a, well, I don't know, 3/16 long. I'll do a couple at a time here. Now I'm taking my little fret tang nipper. Nice little tool. Put it in there real nice. Cuts it real nice. It cuts it. That's the very end of the tang off right here, and that's where it's going to go across the top of the fret. Well, okay, now that we have all the frets in, of course I trim the edges back with my little nippers. Before I go on and start carving the neck, which is the next thing I'm going to do, I like to level my frets. Just basically level them and then give them a crowning. I'm not going to finish the frets completely. I'm not going to dress them and round the edges and everything, but I do want to level them and crown them. And the reason I do that is, I mean, you could obviously do it after you carve the neck, but in my mind, right now I have a flat back of the neck that I could lay down on a hard surface. And when I'm shaping it, when I'm rounding, or when I'm leveling them with my leveling beam here, it's supported all the way through the neck really well. So probably doesn't matter. I do it both ways, but you know, but I like to do it. I like to do this stage, like I said, not finish them, but get them leveled and crowned, you know, before I move on to the carving. And the first thing I do before that is I want to check it again with my straight edge to make sure the fretboard itself is as flat as possible. You know, when we drive these frets in there with that press, each one of these frets is introducing a little bit of pressure into the guitar neck. So you got 24 points along here, you're entering pressure, and that could tend to move things a little bit. Before I started pressing those, of course, I checked it, I had everything perfectly flat. So I'm just going to check it again with this. It's probably just a very minor amount, but I'm going to check with that and then adjust my truss rod with the Allen key here to make sure we're perfectly flat. And then I could proceed on with leveling the frets. So I'm going to do that and then get going with doing my leveling process. Okay, so after a little finessing, I've now gone through and they're all level. I checked them all with my fret rocker and it all checked out really good. So now I'm going to mark them again with my magic marker or Sharpie. I'm going to take my little Z file here. This is the original Z file. I really like it too. Like I said, I used it yesterday for the first time on the other neck. It's got offset, see the little file things? Let's see if I get it up in the camera good. It's offset, one side steeper than the other side. And so you do on one side of the file like so, and it brings one side of the fret in faster than the other, and then you flip it, and then it catches the other side of the fret. And you want to go so there's just the faintest little black line going down the middle, like a very thin pencil line. Okay, so we have the frets installed. I've leveled them with my sanding beam. I've recrowned them, okay? And I've also filed the fret ends a little bit, rounding them over. So I've done I've done the rough leveling work, basically. No finishing. I haven't done any polishing or sanding to finish. But I do have the frets all nice. They're cut, rounded, leveled on top, and crowned. So that's the first process in the frets. But now I'm going to get ready to go ahead and cut the profile of this neck. All right? So this is how I do that. So on my necks, I like them at the first fret, okay? From the center of the fretboard to the back of the neck, I like it to be 80 thousandths of an inch. And at the 12th fret, I like it to be from the center of the fretboard to the back of the neck, 90 thousandths of an inch. So that's going to, sorry, 900 thousandths of an inch and 800 thousandths of an inch. 90 would be awfully thin. So 800 thousandths of an inch here, 900 thousandths of an inch here. Now the way I go about doing that, so I've got my little square, right? I've got my neck laying here, which is laying nice and flat on my tabletop. I push my square up against here, which is touching just in the center of the fretboard. And I've already got my calipers set to 900 thousandths, as you can see. So I'm going to take my fretboard, push that right up against the square. I'm going to poke me just a tiny little hole right there. Now I'm going to mark this with my pencil. Okay, now I'm going to reset this to 80 thousandths. $800 thousandths. I keep making that mistake. It's real easy to jump right past this. Oop. Okay. 800 thousandths of an inch. All right. Now I'm going to come up here to the first fret. Same thing. I'm going to set it right there. Neck's laying nice and flat. Push my calipers up against the square. Just give myself a little mark right here. Okay. So 800 thousandths at the first fret, 900 thousandths at the 12th fret. Now I'm going to take my straight edge and draw that out. Okay, so I like the way that that spindle sander, it helped me cut the volutes in nice, and I got some of the edges knocked down, and I got the radius cut in, started cutting in here against the heel. Anyway, but now I've got my Shinto rasp, which takes off an awful lot of material in a very short amount of time. So that's what I'm going to use now. Get a little bit closer. Well, as you can see, my camera stopped working before I got the video, before I finished sanding the neck. That might be a good thing. It saved you all from watching me sand for another hour. But anyway, as you can see, it did wind up coming out good. And I'd had it to the point where it was all, it was completely shaped with my rasps and everything. And I was basically just going through, and I sanded a little bit with the 6-inch DA sander. And then I do a lot of hand sanding on it too. And basically all you're doing at the end of this thing, once you get it basically shaped, you keep shaping it until it's absolutely straight and it has a nice smooth feel in your hand and a nice fit and everything. And so anyway, that's what you missed. Sorry about that. But I appreciate you all watching. I appreciate you sticking it out to the end. Those of you that watched my video camera stop working. And thanks again for all your wonderful comments, and thanks for sending in those names. I got a lot of great names for the contest. Anyway, I really appreciate you folks out there, and y'all rock on. Thanks.